Hey everybody, welcome to Galactic Wisdom. Wow, it's a hot day today here in California. How are you doing wherever you are? I'm by myself today, but I might have a guest popping in later. Um, I'm here today to talk to you about aliens in Las Vegas. There are a lot of aliens in and around Las Vegas. And the reason for this, well, there seems to be more aliens in Las Vegas than there are in other places. Could this be because of activity in places like Groom Lake, Area 51, Nellis Air Force Base, Creech Air Force Base? It seems very probable. We have knowledge that there are beings that are living on some of the Air Force bases out there. We have knowledge that there is an agreement between the Air Force and some of these beings that they can live out there, work out there in exchange for technology that they're giving to the US Air Force. So that could be part of the reason why there are an unusual number of aliens and UFO sightings in and around Vegas. It could also have something to do with the weather, because it's nice and warm out there. And, you know, if aliens are coming in from different planets and deciding where they would like to live on this planet, maybe they like a warm environment. There are beings that are reptilian that live in and around Las Vegas. They are humanoid, so they look like humans in many respects in their general shape, but they have reptile features. And most people know that reptiles are well adapted for hot, dry conditions. So that's very, very probable. That's quite possible that these beings are there because they like the weather there. I don't know exactly why these beings are there, but they are there. Now, around the time that COVID hit, I was living in Las Vegas. I'd been traveling around the world a little bit, and I had got to Las Vegas. And at that time, I was struggling to get a job because of COVID, because people were not wanting to get together and meet up in person. And so I was kind of stuck in my apartment a lot. And one of the things I started to do was host a lot of alien contact events out there in the desert. And I've got a couple of photos. This is one of my groups when we would go out into the desert there outside of Las Vegas and reach out and try and connect with any beings that are there. The process is that you go outside, you meditate, and you tune into your spiritual bodies, and then you astrally project to any beings that are out there, that are around that area or above you or anywhere in space up there. And when you're there in the presence of any of these beings, then you talk to them. You radiate peace and love to them, and you invite them to come to you. And so I would go out there in the desert with groups of people and meditate and invite them to come in, invite these alien beings to come in to be with us. And very often we would see things in the sky, unusual things. Now, I'm a space scientist. I've done astronomy, and I actually used to fly gliders, so I'm relatively good at looking what's in the sky and identifying is that human-made or not. And I can tell you that a lot of the things that we were seeing in the sky out there were not human technology. I know what a satellite looks like when it passes slowly overhead. It looks like a star passing over you. I know what helicopters and airplane, human-made aircraft look like. They usually will have those different flashing lights on them, depending on what angle you're looking at them from. So I know how to identify craft, and we were seeing alien craft. there was one really cool incident that happened where a large group of people, during the event, somebody said, "Hey, look over there." And this bright light, a craft came in. It was like a craft coming out of hyperspace or light speed. It sort of zoomed in and then slowed down and stopped. And a lot of people saw that because the zoom in was quite slow. And one of the people who was there was a friend of mine. And this friend of mine actually may be popping on the show in a little bit, but he came to several of my events out there. And a lot of what happens when we do this sort of event is spiritual, is astral. So we're seeing psychic stuff, as well as seeing occasional physical things. But my friend was picking up on the love from these beings, and he was really feeling that this is something special. And so it meant so much to him that he started to go out into the desert in the same place that I would host these contact events. He used to go out there every week and meditate and reach out to these beings and try and communicate with them. And after doing this for several months with such dedication, these craft started to come in more frequently for him, and he would start to see a certain type of phenomena in the sky, which is like orbs, luminous orbs that are flying around, interacting with each other, clearly in a way that's not a human craft. And after he had been out in the desert one night, he came back to his home in Las Vegas, and he looked up in the sky, and it was about 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And he looked up into the sky to try and connect with these beings one more time. And he started to see these orbs flying around, these lights in the sky flying around, interacting with each other. And he radiated peace and love to them and followed some of the methodologies that I use to communicate with these beings. And when he turned to go into his house, there was above his house what he describes as a mothership. And here is an image of his drawing of the mothership. Huge mothership with several rows of lights on it. I don't know if those are windows or lights, but it was vast. This was a craft that was football stadium kind of size. And he was just stood there shocked, looking at this amazing craft and thanking it telepathically for appearing. And he ran into his house and shouted at his mother to wake up and come outside. And this is 3 or 4 in the morning, and so it was not the ideal time to be waking up anybody and bringing them outside. But as she came outside, she too saw this craft. She saw it come over the house and zoom off into the distance. And this is a documented case where I've talked to both of them, and I've videoed both of them talking about their experiences. And he has now seen this mothership 3 or 4 times. This is the kind of feedback that you can get from these beings if you reach out to them and communicate with them in a way that they like, that they want to come and appear to you. So this is a very cool experience that is available to that is possible for people to have if they follow certain procedures to reach out to these beings in peace. Now, in that area, let's say, 20, 30 miles northwest of Las Vegas is Creech Air Force Base. And if you go out into the desert from there, this is a vast desert, a huge desert in Nevada. If you go out in Creech Air Force Base, away from the road, away from the cities, into that desert, then they split up those areas of land into ranges. The military refer to the different areas of land out there ranges. And there was a documentary that came out several years ago. I can't remember exactly when, maybe 10 years ago, called Walking with the Tall Whites. And in this documentary, this guy who was stationed on that base, I think it was in the 70s or 80s, but he was stationed out there decades ago. He was stationed out in one of these ranges far out into the desert. And he was stationed at a weather station out there. So he would spend large amounts of time out there in the desert at this range. And in this documentary, he explains, the Walking with the Tall Whites documentary, he explains that when he was out there, he started to see beings out there. He started to see human-like entities that in appearance seemed quite human, but they were tall and pale with white hair, and they were clearly not human, and they seemed to have extra dimensional capabilities, like they could pop in and pop out, and their vocal range was much greater than our vocal range, and that sometimes their vocalizations would sound like birds that were living out there in the desert. And I watched this documentary many years ago, Walking with the Tall Whites, and it was intriguing, but it was really just one guy. I think he was called Charles. And this guy was out there in the desert and seeing beings, but the documentary was just him talking. There were no photos, there was no evidence. And in this documentary, he was talking about I think the leader of the tall white beings, who he and other people, other military personnel on Creech Air Force Base, referred to as Range 4 Harry. So there is this Range 4 Harry, spectral, tall, very pale, white, interdimensional being living out there in the desert northwest of Las Vegas. And I watched this and it was intriguing, but there was no evidence he was offering. So I actually didn't watch through the whole thing. I just said, well, that's interesting, but where's the evidence? And I stopped watching it. But then one of the people in my groups contacted me. I think she might be in that photo that I showed. Oh, no, she isn't in that photo. But she contacted me and she said, hey, Rupert, I watched the documentary Walking with the Tall Whites, and I know what he's talking about. She used to, her father used to be in the Air Force, and he was stationed out there in Nellis Air Force Base, in Creech Air Force Base. And when she was a child, he used to take her out into the desert at nighttime. They would sit on the bonnet or the hood of their car, and lean back and look up into the sky and see UFOs. And that's how she got into the subject. And she described these UFOs as lights that would dance around in the sky, and occasionally there would be a bigger one, and sometimes they would shine spotlights down onto the ground. But she thought it was very weird because these spotlights, it was almost like not light, like there was not a beam coming down that was visible as the light reflects off of the particles of dust in the air and molecules in the air. It would be just the light on the ground moving around. And her father, when she and her sister were children, used to tell her stories about Range 4 Harry. And when she heard that on the documentary, and she remembered and she knew exactly what he was talking about, and a lot of the things that were in the documentary, I think one of the things in the documentary is that these beings, there are children, these beings have children out there and they play out there. And she remembers being taken out into the desert to look for children to play with, which is when she looked back at it, it's like, well, that's bizarre. I mean, why would there be children out there in the middle of the desert unsupervised? But that's the feeling that she got, that she used to go out there looking for children to play with and looking to connect with Range 4 Harry and these beings that are out there. Now, she had no evidence. She had no proof. Well, she had evidence in terms of the memories and the stories, but she never recalled interacting with these tall whites. But this was intriguing to me. And so I started to, specifically when I would go out there and host my alien contact events around the Las Vegas area, I would specifically reach out to the tall white beings. And we started to get them coming in and responding to our requests to appear. We would see their craft in the sky. People would receive psychic messages from them and start to see them psychically around. We didn't see them physically on the ground, but we did start to build up communications with them. And when you can astrally project effectively, you don't even need to go out there in the desert. You can sit in your home, meditate, and take your consciousness out there to them. And that's what we were doing. And we started to communicate with them and establish a friendship with them. And some people may be saying, well, how do you know what you're seeing in your mind is real? And that's a good and valid point. But when you do these astral projections with several different people all at the same time, and 2 or 3 people, 3 or 4 people all see the same beings and hear the same messages from these beings, then you've got a level of proof that something is happening. It goes way beyond random statistical probability that these people are hearing the same names, seeing the same beings, looking in the same way. So we built up a relationship with these tall white beings, and their activity became greater and greater around us, until we got to the point where one time one of my friends who lives in Vegas went out there hiking in that area, took her 2 children with her, all 3 of them psychic, and they saw tall whites psychically in the desert, 20, 30 feet away from them, beckoning them like this. And they didn't go out into the desert. They didn't follow the beings. They were, a little cautious, but they immediately told me about it. And I said, well, I think I know what they're saying. Because I've been thinking the same thing. I think they're saying, Rupert and everybody, you're invited to come out further into the desert. So that's what we did. I did a bit of research. Excuse me, drinking a bit of water here. I did a little bit of research. I went back and I watched that Walking with the Tall Whites documentary again. And I figured out where that stuff was going on a map. And you can actually get close to that region on public land. Now, that public land is on or in the National Desert Wildlife Refuge. And it is 3 or 4 hours of driving out into the desert to get there, but you can get relatively close to that area. And there are signs up as you are driving along the road there, the dirt track. Warning, military installation, do not come onto this any further than this. I guess the area of land is too big to put a fence around it. So we were very careful. We didn't go onto military land. We stayed in the public area so that we weren't doing anything illegal or wrong. And we drove out there. Actually, it took us 4 hours to get out there into the desert. This is about 2 years ago now. 4 hours of driving. We started off with about 8 cars. We ended up with about 4 cars that made it because it's so hot and this track is so hard to maneuver along. You've got to have a high clearance 4-wheel drive, and people were getting flat tires and things along the way. But we made it out there, and we set up our tents, and we started to do contact activities, and we started to see things coming in the sky. UFOs, you can use the word the term UFO, but when you know that it's a tall white craft, it's not unidentified. It's not an unidentified flying object. These were what I describe as PAPs, probable alien phenomena. I'd go so far as to say definite alien phenomena. So you could say PAPs or DAPs, probable or definite. And so we were seeing these around us, and people were seeing, and again, still we're seeing these psychically, not in physical form yet, but we were seeing tall white beings standing in the desert in the distance, observing us. And we wanted to communicate with them. We wanted to build up a stronger relationship with them. They could have, with their technology and us being vulnerable out there in the desert, they could have, if they were hostile, we wouldn't have stood a chance, but they weren't hostile. And while we were meditating, they started to channel themselves through one of our members. And this person had not done anything like this before, but they started to feel pressures around their bodies and an urge and instinct that they need to start talking, and their body was taken over in a non-hostile way, and they started to speak to us, and we had conversations with these beings that were there. And we didn't connect with Harry or arrange for Harry, but we did connect with somebody that identified themselves as George. And it's interesting that these beings are using Earth names. They're taking on Earth names for our benefit that are kind of fairly old names. And that maybe implies that some of these beings are older than a lot of human beings around us. But we started to have a conversation with them, and we all introduced ourselves to the Tall Whites, and they were giving us feedback in a way that seemed to indicate they were telepathically looking into us and saw who we were. It's like one of the attendees was called Elizabeth, and the Tall White, George, was calling her Lizzie. And after the event, Elizabeth told me that people used to call her Lizzie when she was young, but they haven't in many decades. But the fact that George was calling her Lizzie was very interesting to her. So we had this conversation, and I was asking questions, and somebody actually recorded the audio of this, so I will be re-releasing that at some stage quite soon in the next few weeks, hopefully. I'll re-release the audio. But we found out that they don't live under the ground. They live in the mountains. And so I had my night vision camera. Oh, here it is. I had my night vision camera. By the way, if anybody's interested in getting a good night vision camera, you can't beat the Psionics Aurora Pro. There you go. A little bit of advertising in there. They're not sponsoring me or anything, but this is a good wide field camera for just looking around at stars and aircraft and anything that comes into the sky. You can see this even when it's dark. Now it's not a thermal imaging camera, so it doesn't pick up on like body heat, but any reflected light at all, it's picking up on that in the near infrared part of the spectrum. So I was scanning this around, and I didn't realize that I'd picked this up until I got home and searched through all my video footage. But I picked up something zooming down behind the mountain that was behind us. And when I looked at that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. What's that? Oh, it's probably a lens flare. Most of the lights in the sky that people photograph or video, you look at them and they're lens flares. That means that there's probably a bright source of light that is close to, or you're shining your camera at, and that light comes into the lens and refracts around a bit, and on the opposite side of the image, you see an image, a light that appears to be a luminous source of something flying in the sky, but it's actually not. It's just a refraction. But this was not a refraction that I had videoed. You could tell. I mean, I can tell, because if there's a refraction, then you look on the other side of the image and you can ask yourself, well, where is the source of light that caused that lens flare? And there was not a source of light to cause that lens flare. And it ducks behind the mountain. Now, I don't have the video here for you to show you right now, but I've taken a screenshot of this. And it's not probably particularly impressive to see just as a screenshot, but on the right, the light on the right is a star above the mountain. And towards the middle, towards the left, this is just a screenshot from the video. And what is happening on the video is this light appears to open up out of a dark circle that appears to look a little bit like a portal. This dark circle opens up and this light shoots out of it and then shoots down and behind the mountain. And what's interesting is on this image here, you kind of need to see the video to see the way it's moving, but it shoots down from the upper right to the lower left. And I'm not sure if you can see there, but there is a trail of some kind of flame-like plasma lapping out down towards up towards the left. I've zoomed in on this light, and the light is on the right at the bottom right, and there's a plume of something coming out to the upper left. Now, the effect in the video when you see it is it kind of looks like a flapping, I don't know, a flapping sheet that's you've put outside a car. It's going like this. It is not a trailing, fiery trail that's going behind, say, a meteorite or a shooting star. You see the flame, the plasmic sort of flames lapping around to the left and right of this light. That is a tall white phenomenon. That is either a spirit, because when the spirits or the astral bodies of beings, whether they're aliens or humans or other entities, when they travel around by themselves, they appear like a spiritual orb. That's what those orbs are above Skinwalker Ranch that you see in the TV show, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. They're spirits. They're the spirits of these beings flying around, the astral bodies, the extra dimensional bodies of these beings. And that's what I caught on film. And I went out there again into actually a different place in the deserts around Las Vegas. This is on completely the different side. This is in the Nelson Hills of Las Vegas. And there are only 2 or 3 of us. But we did alien contact activities and meditations. And I took my night vision camera and I held it up to the mountain, and I started to move it over the edge of the mountain, and I invited them, please do the same thing again. And I tuned into the memory of what I'd recorded, and they did the same thing again. This time they were a little closer. And now what you see on the left of this image is a lens flare. That's very definitely a lens flare. It behaves like a lens flare. But on the right, you can see that there is a light that has a trail behind it. This is not a trail like a meteorite with like fiery little bits coming out of it. This was a steady, slow descent from a luminous source that appeared not far above the mountain and flew down to the lower right. And sometime in the future, I will play the video that I have taken, both of those videos, on this show. Hey, you know what? I think I might actually have that video available to show you. The clips might be available within another video that I put up here. Okay, I've got a video here that's a 2-minute video that I've entitled here Rupert's Life. But this video, if you watch this video, there are a couple of shots that show those two phenomenon. You'll have to be watching carefully to see those shots. Oh, and also while you watch this video, look out for the cow. I'll see if anybody can see the cow. And after I have played this video, I'm going to look at your comments, because I can see comments coming in. And if you have questions, I will address any questions you have. Okay, here's a 2-minute video for you. Look out for those two brief shots. Ah, there you go. Okay. Oh, so I need to take down that video. How do I do that? Add to stage. Hey, Bill, I can't see myself. How do I get rid of that video now? Are you there? Okay, well, I'm not sure what's going on. Let's see if oh, there I am. I don't know why I wasn't able to get rid of that video at the end. Okay, well, I'm back. So did anybody see the cow? There was just a brief shot of us doing alien contact out there, and the a herd of cows came in and made friends with us. So we made contact with non-human entities. That was fun. Okay, so let's see who's out there today in our comments. Patricia, thank you very much for being here. Joe, yes, this is Rupert. Thank you for being here. Joe asked the question, where was this? I'm talking about, well, there's two specific locations that I've talked about so far. One is the National Desert Wildlife Refuge, and there's 4 words in there. I might be saying them in the wrong order, but that is northwest of Las Vegas, and you can go there. And driving is terrible there because, well, I guess they don't want people driving out there into the desert talking to the aliens that are out there. But that's where you can go. Now, I'm not going to tell you the specific location where we connect with the Tall Whites, because that's sort of privileged information, and I don't want just anybody I don't know going out there and having contact with the beings. Sorry, it was just a noise next to me. I feel like maybe I'm not alone here. And another place was and that wildlife refuge. That's the biggest wildlife refuge outside of Alaska in the US. It is vast, and stretches up a long way. And if you keep going up, I mean, I don't think you can get this far. I've never gone this far, but up in that direction, that's where Area 51 is. So we went somewhere in the desert between Creech Air Force Base and Area 51. The other place that I have gone there, which is also a good place to do alien contact events, is the Nelson Hills. There's something called, I think, a photo spot out there. If you go all the way through Nelson Hills, all the way down to the Colorado River, and then you can just walk out there into Nevada, on the edge of Nevada, the Colorado River, and then on the other side of that is Arizona, I think. So thank you, yes, Joe, for being here, and for Patricia. Jonathan, hey, thank you for being here also. That is awesome. I can't tell if anybody else is here, but thank you very much. Okay, so that's a little bit about tall whites. Now I do have here, if I can maneuver back to the right place, I do have here an image that I've uploaded of a tall white that was seen at that event where we went out there in the desert. This is an image of basically the astral body of a tall white entity. And this one came in, I don't know if this was George or not, but somebody saw this astral body, the spirit of one of these beings, basically. So even though they're in a human-shaped body, which is terrestrial, made of terrestrial DNA, that it's engineered terrestrial DNA, alien engineered terrestrial DNA to make a human-like body, which human-like bodies are very efficient and well adapted for our environment. Their spirits are more alien. The spirit that inhabits the biological body is more alien, and you can see it has a larger cranial ridge, a larger cranial area, because their brains are bigger than ours. They're more intelligent. And as a consequence of that, they're more peaceful and more able to live in harmony with each other. I have been talking about tall whites, but there are also these reptilian beings that live there. Now, I've had on this show a couple of times my friend Laura, who lives in Las Vegas, Laura Zolla, who is a wonderful artist. And she paints these amazing pictures, and she had somebody who commissioned her to paint a picture several years ago, and this person was an elderly lady who was, how does Laura describe her? The lady was a smoker. She's sort of harsh in her manner, in her characteristics, acerbic. I think that's the word that Laura uses to describe her, but not hostile, not negative. And this woman who commissioned Laura to paint a picture was an artist. Was a psychic who worked in a Las Vegas show. She had a show where she was a psychic. And this is interesting. So we have an elderly lady who is very sort of coarse in her appearance and her character, who is psychic and does these Las Vegas shows. And when she came to Laura's house to look at the artwork that Laura had painted for her, Laura started to pick up on this person not being human, because Laura is psychic. And so she was there trying to get a handle on, who is this? What is this being that's in my home? And Laura, in her mind, she was asking questions of this being. Who are you? What are you? And clearly this woman was hearing in her mind, because this woman turned her head slowly and morphed into this picture here, this being here. And this being has reptile skin, scales, dry, scaly skin like a reptile, but not completely reptile, clearly retaining a lot of human features, including kind of spiky hair at the back of her head. And so now this does not look like a typical reptilian. A typical reptilian looks more like this. This is a picture from another Laura that we probably all know, Laura Walker. This is what a typical reptilian looks like. But Laura's reptilian, the other Laura Zola's reptilian, looked more like this. And so she had turned her head like this, morphed into being a reptilian, held that appearance for about 20 seconds, and then turned back and morphed back into a human. And Laura was just shocked and didn't know what to do, couldn't say anything. And then this lady got up and left. And the way that I and Laura interpret that is, well, Laura was asking this being in her head, what are you? And this being decided to give her an answer and showed her what she is. And she turned her head, maybe by not looking directly at Laura, it would be less threatening, because that's a pretty scary image. This is a pretty scary image of a pretty scary looking being. And maybe making direct eye contact with those black eyes there. Making direct eye contact would have been too negative to see. And so this being was basically saying, okay, I'm going to show you who I am. And she did. And maybe if this lady was psychic also, she would be able to look into the future and know that if she showed Laura who she really was, then there would be no negative consequence. That the government wouldn't start, trying to wipe out these beings, that there would be no big negative consequence to the reptilian species. And so she showed her. Maybe she saw in the future that Laura would tell me about this incident and also tell other people and draw this picture. And maybe she saw that I would be sharing this with everybody. Because the message that I have about reptilians is not that they are terrible, angry people, terrible, angry beings that are out there violently attacking us and taking over our government, and the royal family are reptilians and they're all nasty people and they're trying to take over our world. No, these are, these are stories that have been, and beliefs that have been made up about a different species that look scary to us. And humans are not so good when often when we encounter people or beings who look differently from ourselves, we assign negative feelings towards them, negative discrimination. And so a lot of people have negative discrimination towards these reptilians when they show up. I decided I'm not going to have negative discrimination towards anybody. So I held an event, and this is in Vegas. Which park is this? I can't remember the name of this park in Vegas, Cornerstone Park in Vegas. I held an event there, and this is everybody that came to that event. And you might see Laura in there if you've seen her in my shows. Laura Zola is in there. And we called this event Reptilians Invited. And a wonderful group of nice people who held this event where we invited reptilians to come to this event and show themselves to us. Because there are people walking around Las Vegas who are not human. There are definitely reptilians. Laura also thinks that she's seen tall white beings disguised as human beings walking around Las Vegas. These beings are not infiltrating us and taking us over. These beings are learning about us and who humans are. And I don't know whether this is done with the cooperation from the Air Force and the military, or if this is just them trying to experience what it is to be human. But they're out there, similar to the way, it's set up in Men in Black. Steven Spielberg, he had a lot of inside information. So we reached out to these beings in peace. And even though we had a couple of people come to these meetings, because I did this on more than one occasion, we had one person come along who I think was a grey, disguised as a human, a grey with a human head, because that was what their form looked like. And I think maybe there was a reptilian that came, another elderly lady. They did not tell us that they were reptilian. I could not tell that they were reptilian. But then at my subsequent events, reptilians started to show up. I had an event where I suddenly started to get the twitching in the muscles in my eyebrow, which are an indication that beings are present. And I turned to everybody in my group. This is a contact event in Texas that I hosted. I turned to everybody in my group and I said, hey, does anybody see anything around me? Because in all of my events, there are psychics who come. And one of the ladies in my events, in that event, she said, Rupert, yes, there is a reptilian standing right next to you. And I addressed the reptilian and I said, listen, I would like to thank you very much for being here. And I said quickly, just to let them know, we actually hosted an event a couple of weeks ago called Reptilians Invited, where we reached out in peace to your species, because we have a vision, a moral vision of universal peace, universal love, and universal happiness. And we extend that to all beings. You can love everybody unconditionally, even if you don't like them. Even if they're doing things that you don't particularly like, you can extend love to everybody. And that's what we do. And that's what we did with the reptilians. And they said, yes, we know. That's why we're here. We're here to support you. We're here to protect you. And since then, they have come to a lot of our meetings, in person and online, and they stand around and they protect us. They look outwards, they form a circle around us, and they ensure that nothing negative can come in. Now, 99% of the beings that, well, I would say 100% of the beings that we encounter at my events are beings of light and love, because we're so strong in that, there's nothing negative that can come in. So maybe this protection that they're giving to us is more symbolic, but they come to our events and they protect us, sometimes with protection of some kind of force field of energy around us that is like a protective sphere of corether around us, protecting us. And people feel that. People feel the spheres of protection. We had a reptilian come to one of our events who was a child, and she came up and she, I'm saying she, I can't remember the gender of this child, but this reptilian was nudging up, almost like a dog or a cow, a friendly cow, nuzzling up against one of our members. And so we have a friendship with these reptilians. We have a friendship with these tall whites. And this is what I do. This is my life. This is my chosen occupation. And I host events in person. Here's a shot of us all out there in the desert when we went out there to connect with tall whites. And you can attend events like this if you want to. I host events, several events actually every week online. If anybody's interested in attending my online astral projection events, then I encourage people to join my Patreon group here. In 2 hours from now, I am hosting an event to reach out to the Galactic Council of Alien Beings, a bit like we have the United Nations, the UN, on this planet for humans. The different species of aliens that are out there, they have a Galactic Council that represents a galactic federation. Now, I don't think that it is galactic wide. I don't know that, but the beings that we're seeing are more sort of local. And by local, I mean probably within 100 light years of us. They are beings who can travel around in our neighborhood. And when they tell us where they're from, like places like Orion, well, we in our galaxy live in the Orion spur of the galaxy. They tell us sometimes places like, let's see, I'm thinking, no, Orion is the main one that they tell us about, but the local stars like Barnard's Star and Arcturus and places like that, we are connecting with these beings, and they are coming to us, and we are going to them. In 1 hour, I'm rambling a bit now. I was just like distracted by looking at the time, making sure I don't run over. We are going to reach out to them today in an hour. And when we reach out to them, we go to their mothership, to their ship, and we meet in the Galactic Council chamber in the middle of that. And today I would like to focus on what does the ship look like. This is one image that somebody drew of what they thought the ship looked like. I would like to get confirmation of that. So that's what we're going to do today. We're also going to go into the chamber and sit with them and communicate with them and ask them a few more questions. If you would like to join me, then please join us in the Galactic Wisdom Patreon group. I also recommend that people support and join KGRA, because KGRA is doing a wonderful job with all of these podcasts. And if you join KGRA, then use the special code GALAXY. Doesn't uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter, GALAXY, and you'll get something like a 30% discount. I can see that there's a few more people joined us. Thank you, Liz, for being here, and a few others. I am so grateful to all of you for watching, for supporting what we're doing, and I look forward to seeing you all another time. Peace, love, and happiness to you. Goodbye for now.